Bri, let me just start off with the obvious. I'm so happy that we found you. Okay? I was getting concerned. You were missing last night. We didn't know where you were. Ah, it's so good to see your face, your beautiful smile. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you, Rachel. I'm doing good. I'm doing good and feeling relieved that the season is over.
Girl, you and me both. I am
All of
too.
us,
All
all of
of
us.
us, right? Never been more ready for a season to be over with. Listen,
Oh my
I
gosh.
think a lot of people were disappointed that we didn't see you at the AFR. Like I know closure's for you, but it's also for the audience. Like we want to understand how
Yeah.
you're feeling, how you felt in that moment when you were cut. Were you disappointed to see that you were not a part of After the Final Rose?
I was extremely disappointed. I realized that there was probably a lot of content to digest between Matt and his conversations with Michelle and
Mm-hmm.
Rachel and the announcement of two bachelorettes. But and I can respect that, each one of those women had the time that they needed to get closure and have those conversations. But yeah, it was disappointing because I do feel like I had a great conversation with Emmanuel about my journey, and I was able to kind of wrap it all up in a bow, and I got good closure from it. And I wish people could have seen me reach that conclusion.
So you were at AFR.
I can confirm that I was there.
Okay, did you get any confirmation as to why your segment was cut?
I mean, to be honest, I think it's just the fact that the conversations that took place took a lot longer than expected, and they were important conversations that needed to be had. I mean, I'm sure we can agree that at the end we were happy to see that Rachel had the conversation with Emmanuel and with Matt. But yeah, it was still hard to not see the conclusion of my journey. Yeah.
So let's have AFR right here. I'll be Emmanuel, you be Bri. And let's talk about the things that you didn't get to talk about or we didn't get to see. Okay.
Please.
You went all the way to the final three. Were you
Yeah.
blindsided when Matt sent you home?
Oh yeah, of course. I was definitely blindsided. I thought for a long time that it was going to be me at the end of this. And, while it wasn't me, it did become increasingly clear to me at some point there was a turning point that his connections were probably stronger with some of the other women in the house. But I made a commitment to myself to be steadfast in my decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked myself out of the doubt that I was feeling and told myself that I would be the one to see myself. I would see myself at the end of this. And unfortunately, that didn't happen. But I think Matt and I wish the best for each other.
That's what I was going to say. One of the big topics in AFR was closure because Michelle didn't feel like she got the closure that she needed. Do you feel like you got closure from your breakup with Matt?
Yeah, you know what? I do. I do feel like watching it back, as odd as it sounds, gave me the closure that I needed
Mm-hmm.
to move forward. I mean, I think it was very obvious to the audience where Matt's heart was the entire time. And while I felt blindsided in that moment, watching it back, it was like a no-brainer to me. Him and Rachel were madly in love with each other. And, you know, I was able to see it for exactly what it was.
Where do you stand with Matt now? Have you had an opportunity to talk to him?
I haven't had an opportunity to talk to Matt. I did not talk to him after the final rose.
Wait, what?
I'm
You
sure
didn't even get a chance to talk to him after the final rose?
we didn't talk. No,
Okay, what's happening
we
here?
didn't talk.
What's going on here? I'm not.
I mean, I think it's just the fact that maybe I just had the closure that I needed. There was that's what was so hard about this season is a lot of diverse and in-depth stories
Mm-hmm.
really got overshadowed by a lot of the controversy and like I said, important conversations that needed to be had that I can respect on one hand, but on the other hand, it was disappointing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the
But
oh
again, I wish Matt the best.
yeah, and I
That's where I
think
stand now.
we definitely all do. One of the things that you said that I like my heart went out to you, and I understand how you feel when you say this. But you said that life after the show has been mentally draining. So can you explain why you made that comment, and how are you feeling
Yeah.
today?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, watching it back again, it's an experience like any other. It is very unique. to be vulnerable, let alone on a reality TV show, let alone the guy that you're in love with is also dating 30 other women. And it's been mentally draining because I think about all the pain that's had to happen and the mistakes that have had to happen to get us to the point that we're at now,
Yeah.
which is the fact that we've come far, but it's just a reminder to us that we have so much further to go. You know, we're barely scratching the surface in terms of these uncomfortable conversations and issues within the franchise. And so it's mentally draining to think about what more we have, how much more work we have to do, and that we need to see in order to feel good about what just
Yeah.
happened this season. So that's what I meant. But I can say that it has been a relief, and the women and I have really leaned on each other and have been a source of strength for one another throughout all of this. And I think that's just, again, why I want to just continue to be honest and true. Like, it was hard.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting with the women on this season, like they're like half of them, I'm like, absolutely not. And then the other part of you, I'm like, I've really enjoyed getting to know you. And this, I would say probably this is, I've been more involved with the cast or the contestants from this season than any other season. So I'm glad that you guys have each other and that you have such a connection and you're able to lean on each other, especially with everything this season has been about. You mentioned about having these conversations, uncomfortable conversations, and scratching the surface. Do you feel like in the finale, in the AFR, do you feel like the right conversations were had? Do you feel like they were scratching the surface, or did they go a little bit deeper?
I think, and I'll applaud Emmanuel for this. I think that they were able to dive a little bit deeper. I mean, unfortunately, like, you can't see the entire conversation that took place, I'm sure, and I'm sure there was a lot to cover and unpack there. But what you did see was Matt's honest feelings and his opinions, and Rachel's honest feelings and her opinions, and where Rachel is now, and how tough it's going to be for the both of them to move forward after this. And that dug a little bit deeper than what I expected them to go. So I'm glad it was a conversation that was had. I'm glad that we got to see that play out.
There was a lot of talk on social that people felt like Emmanuel was a little bit tougher on Matt. What was your take on that?
I think it's because, you know, he made a decision. He made a decision at the end of this to stand by someone. To maybe at the time they thought stand by someone who they thought they were going to spend the rest of their lives with. And that's, for me personally, I remember saying on the show, like, I want someone that I'm going to be able to go through the hard times with. Like, life is not going to be full of fairy tales and a happy ending, right? Like, I want someone who's going to stick through these tough and uncomfortable times and conversations and situations that you might find yourself in. So, but I mean, hey, I get it. At the end of the day, it's like, it's both of their lives, and they have to do what's best for each other, for themselves, because it was a reality TV show for everyone else, but it was their lives for them.
Yeah. I thought it was a little bit unfair to kind of place him into a box of like, you know, like, why didn't you make this decision? Why? Because like nobody knows what they went through. Nobody knows what those conversations were like behind closed doors. It was tough. It was a tough conversation.
It was.
Let me get into a little bit about Rachel, because I know that when like I was final three, so I know like when you get to that point, you are close with the ladies that are left. How did you first hear about the news regarding Rachel and the social media, the problematic social media behavior?
I think I started seeing a lot of the videos and photos surface as soon as they came out on social media platforms. So this was very early on. Like, I was receiving my news in real time, just like everybody else was.
Did you reach out to her, or did she reach out to you?
So as soon as the photos and videos started surfacing of Rachel, I reached out to her to extend my support and check in with her, because again, I was friends with everyone on the show this season, and I hadn't heard from her. And I think, you know, while her apology was a step in the right direction, we hadn't connected about it in person, and I didn't hear from her for a while.
But you've heard from her since?
I've heard from her since taping.
Okay.
Yes.
What were your thoughts about, like, were you surprised that Matt didn't make a commitment at the end of this season? Not what happened in the finale, but like the actual season. Did it shock you that he wasn't ready to propose?
You know, yes and no. Yes, because I think where I left off, I walked out and was like, Matt said he's ready for an engagement. He's open to this. This is going to happen. And I think it's easy for all of us to come into this situation and say, we're ready and be open to everything that comes along this experience and this journey. But then you get there and it hits you and you're like, oh, I'm not ready for this at all. I'm sure we have sat down and we're like, oh, there's an engagement coming up at the end of this. And you re-ask yourself, you have this reality check with yourself. Am I ready for this? And I think we saw him literally have it in that moment with his family.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready for this.
Yeah, it's something about the family that brings it out of you. Like, they're that mirror, they're that dose of reality where you're like, okay, maybe I've been living in this bubble. My head has been a little bit in the clouds. And yeah, you kind of saw that with Matt. I wonder if Matt hadn't talked to his family, would he have proposed?
Yeah, I wonder that too. And because you are in a bubble, you're in this reality, this fantasy world of thinking, I'm ready for this. And then I realized he hadn't been in a relationship before.
Yeah.
So this is all very new to him. So yeah, I'm surprised, but then I'm not again.
Bri, you were a fan favorite. You are a fan favorite. A lot of people, like I said, were disappointed that they didn't see you on the finale. We did see a surprise where they announced that Michelle and Katie are the new Bachelorettes. How do you feel about that? Because a lot of people think it should have been you. They do.
That's true. That's what I've read and seen. But you know what? I will say Katie is a wonderful girl. I think she was meant for this type of stuff. She will thrive in this environment, stepping into this role, and in a lot of ways, she was meant for it in ways that I'm not. So I'm happy for her, and I'm even more excited for my girl Michelle, because I think if there's anyone that's deserving of another chance, a true shot at finding love, I think it's Michelle. I think everyone can agree that she is sincere and earnest and heartwarming, and I'm excited to watch her.
Are you nervous for Michelle, seeing what has happened during Matt's season?
I think Michelle needs to go in with her guard up a little bit. With her guard up, knowing what she knows now, and Michelle's an extremely intelligent woman, and I know that she will. Because I think it's one thing to go in naively, but it's another thing to go in knowing everything that you know now. And I trust that Michelle will put her best foot forward and stay true to herself throughout all of this. And I think she's going to do great. Like, I don't have any doubt in my mind that she'll struggle too much.
Okay. I like Michelle. And I like Katie too. I think they'll be great.
Yeah.
I'm nervous for Michelle though, but I think she'll do great.
It'll be tough.
Where do you think the franchise should go from here with everything that has happened on camera, off camera? What are your thoughts about where the franchise should go? How can they be better?
Yeah, I think we can all agree that this season has taught us anything. It's that the show does have an opportunity to tackle much larger and, bigger conversations. I think a lot of that was gone missed, honestly, because of the potentially over exaggerated and unnecessary drama at times. So I hope that we can see diverse stories that are indicative of the world that we live in. And that leads me to my next point of just change needing to be longer term and needing it to be intentional rather than just reactionary. I would like to see the franchise hire more people of color who are part of the decision-making process and the editing process. And lastly, I think there needs to be some accountability from ABC on the casting process or the vetting during the casting process or lack thereof.
Well said. Last question real quick, yes or no. Paradise, are we going? Yes or no?
Probably not.
Don't blame you. I get it. You got hand claps here. You have fans in the room. Okay. You do.
Oh, good.
Bri, thank you so much for stopping by. We wish you all the best. Go get your job back. I'm sure there'll be plenty of jobs coming your way.
Thank you, Rachel. I really appreciate it. And I really appreciate you guys having me on.
Of course. Take care. Bye.
You too. Bye.
Thank you for watching. If you want more extra, hit the subscribe button and the bell so you'll never miss a video.